everybody walking this earth is trying their best. My name is Hermien and I'm a storyteller. I use the power of story and the vehicle of fitness to overcome limiting beliefs. And I've learned that it's not just overcoming limiting beliefs, but I'm also learning how to heal through telling my story and through the vehicle of fitness, which is, I think, the one thing I've struggled with my whole life. I remember being 13 years old and wanting to lose 5 kilos. Now, I think it's strange for a 13-year-old who should be out in the world playing with Barbies and everything, just wishing to look different and to be different and to be somebody else. But that is my history with my body and with myself, this constant struggle to want to be better and beat my body into submission. I think my journey starts when I was 18 months old. When I was 18 months old, my sister Laimi was born, and if anyone knows Laimi, they know that she's got this bigger than life personality. And I think because I was so young, I felt like she came into the world to take my place. And so I dimmed my own light because hers shone so brightly, which is wonderful. But as a child, I didn't understand that I wasn't being replaced, but that's what it felt like. I felt invisible, unheard, unseen and unwanted, even though it wasn't the case. But you can tell a child one thing, but their experience will always just be their experience. And then when I was 5 years old, my parents sent me to boarding school in Cape Town. And so what would happen is they would drive me from here to the airport, hand me over to an air hostess who would put a sign around my neck that said unaccompanied minor. I would then have to wait for everybody to board the plane, and I'd be the last person to board. So that just added to that rejection and abandonment that I felt. And then when we got to the airport, I'd have to wait for everybody to disembark the flight, and I'd be the last one. And sometimes the air hostess would be like, "Oh, I forgot about you." So that also just compounds that rejection, that abandonment, that invisibility, that unseen. But I think what I have to interject is I grew up in a 2-parent home, and my parents were trying their very best. And my experience that I had, that was my parents doing their best, because my parents were both poverty cycle breakers in their families. They both came from extreme poverty. My mom, my mom's biological father abandoned my grandmother when she had 3 children and moved to, I think it's Sakaras or something, and married somebody else. So so my mom only has grade 8. When she got to grade 8, she had to drop out and start pursuing a career as a nurse so that she could help my grandmother raise her siblings. And then there were some more siblings after that when my grandmother remarried. And my father, at around grade 7, he walked from the north to Windhoek to come and find a job, so that he wouldn't be a cattle herder and a sheep herder and a goat herder his whole life. And he was actually part of the people who constructed the road from Windhoek to the airport. So he got into construction, and he was a construction worker. And when my mother was pregnant with my older sister, she was like, something's got to change. So she started selling. So that time in Katutura, there wasn't really electricity. There wasn't really it was still extreme abject poverty. So my mom came up with the idea of, what if she buys candles, matches and paraffin in bulk, and while she's pregnant, start selling them from outside her bedroom window. And that's what she did. And from doing that, they were able to break the cycle of poverty in their own families. But as first generation poverty cycle breakers, they then had this almost, it was so imperative for them that their children not experience the same thing. And so they poured a lot into hard work. My father used to wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and work all the way past midnight, and then start the process again. Because what people don't understand is the trauma of poverty causes you to the pendulum swings all the way to the other side, where you become so hardworking, even to your own detriment. And so in 2008, my father passed away from cardiac failure, and it's due to that life of just hard work, and his heart just couldn't keep up with it. So even though I experienced this trauma in my childhood and this feeling invisible, I know for a fact that my parents didn't do any of that on purpose. They were doing the best with their history and the trauma that they had. And that is what has helped me understand that everybody walking this earth is trying their best. That's what I learned from this. And so my healing fell on my shoulders, and I've taken it off my parents' shoulders, and I've taken it off my family's shoulders, and I've placed the ball directly, squarely in my own court and taken responsibility, because no matter how much anyone loves you, they're going to disappoint you. No matter how much anyone loves you, they're trying their best. They're also healing from their own trauma. They're also having their own human experience. And if I have to place the responsibility of my experience on them, it's too heavy of a burden, even as parents to carry. And it's tough realizing that, but that was the realization I've come to. So I always tell people that the women in my family, they have larger than life personalities, very ambitious, driven, but they're also just larger. So I come from a family of really big women. So from childhood, I was always told, you're so big, you're so fat, you're never going to be able to change. And these words start to cement in your mind, and you're like, I will never be able to change. This is my lot in life. There's nothing I can do about it. But on the 1st of September 2013, and I remember it was even a Wednesday, and it's almost 8 years ago, I stepped onto the scale and I had reached the triple digits. So I was weighing over 100 kilos, and I said, you know what? I can either accept that this is my lot in life and just watch these numbers increase and watch my pain increase and watch my suffering increase, or I can gather up the courage to change and go against every negative word that's been spoken about me, go against, genetics, go against human nature, and see if I can change. And I did. And it's been one heck of a ride. It has been so turbulent, but I always tell people that, getting to change is a turbulent ride. When the flight goes like this, but it's the same with any adventure. It's like, if I buy you a flight ticket to Mauritius, you're not going to be worried that the flight is turbulent, because you're excited about the fact that you're going to Mauritius. And that's kind of like how my journey has been. Healing is turbulent. Sometimes you think, is this plane going to fall out of the air? Sometimes it does these little dips, but I know I'm going to Mauritius. So I know I just keep holding on. When I started my journey back in 2013, I did what most people do. Whether you're a fitness journey or if you want to become, an actor, you go and find other people who are doing the same thing, so that you can draw inspiration, draw motivation from their story. And when I went onto social media, I couldn't resonate with any of those stories that were being told, because it was just perfection. It was this before picture and then this after picture, and then six-pack abs, and no one falls, no one gets it wrong, no one is emotional eating, no one, it didn't feel true to me. And I will always acknowledge that it's probably true to them, because I acknowledge that there are people who get it right. I'm not one of them. I fall and I have to keep picking myself up, and I fall and I have to keep picking myself up. But I couldn't see that story being told on social media. So I was like, if I can't see it, maybe I should be the one to tell it. So weighing 100 kgs, I started sharing my story of overcoming my own limiting beliefs, healing these narratives because it's not just the words other people had told me, it's the words I had told myself and what I had chosen to believe. I had to heal that too. And I started sharing, and initially it was just like one person here, one like here, but I was like, I'm not doing this for the likes. I'm doing this to heal myself, and so that if anyone is ever like me looking for a story that they can resonate with, that they'll be able to find it. So because of my childhood trauma of fear of rejection and abandonment, I developed very young, while I was still very young, approval addiction, you know, this great desire to be liked and accepted by people. And it showed up in high school very early on. Like, you know, I started smoking with friends because you know, you want people to like you. If they're smoking, you're smoking. I started drinking in high school. We would sneak out, and at some point, you know, we started doing ecstasy, cocaine, and all of that. And after high school, it was promiscuity, you know, because you're just trying to fill this hole with anything, you know, whether it be people or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is. But you start to recognize that that hole isn't alcohol shaped. It's not cigarette shaped. It's not, you know, anything shaped. That hole is literally you shaped, and only you can enter that place and almost free yourself from it. And so, you know, my road just kept going. And so in 2013, when I started this road, I thought it was a weight loss journey, but it wasn't. And so in 2018, what I thought was a weight loss journey wasn't just a weight loss journey. It was a healing journey. And I think all of us came here to heal. Like, we're here to not just heal the world, but to heal ourselves. And it's almost like, because it's circular. I thought initially, I just need to get through this, and then there's a point where you reach the top of Everest and it's all done and you're all saved. And so one of the things I had to overcome because of the approval addiction was I developed an emotional eating habit. So I find comfort in food. And this is something a lot of Namibians generally don't talk about, because they experience a lot of shame around compulsive binge eating and emotional eating, because a lot of people will look at you and be like, why don't you just stop eating? Because it's easy for people to understand the plight of a drug addict, because we understand it. It's easy for people to understand the plight of an alcoholic. It's not easy for people to understand the plight of an emotional food addict. It is not easy for people to understand that, because they're like, but it's just food. But to us, it's not just food. It's a companion. It's comfort. It's safety. It is. And I always say to people, if you've ever watched the show 600 Pound Life, when you look at somebody who weighs 400 kilos, they don't want to be that way. They don't. And the fact that they keep on eating, you can't tell that person it's just food. Get over it. Clearly, something inside of them is crying out for help, and it doesn't help that the world doesn't understand the plight of the food addict or the emotional eater. And so I speak very openly on social media about overcoming emotional eating, about overcoming binge eating, and I've learned it's kind of like the boogie monster. You know, I don't know if you were a child, or if you have a child and, you know, you switch off the lights and it's bedtime, and then you hear them scream, and you run in there and they're like, there's something in the room, and you switch the lights on, and then it goes away. They're not scared anymore, just because it was shadows that were being cast on the wall. So they think that, you know, the boogeyman is there, but when you switch on the light, the boogeyman goes away, which is the same with telling our stories. When we bring our struggles, our pain, our plight to the light, oh, that rhymes, our plight to the light, the boogeyman goes away. It no longer has that power over us. And I think because people always ask, what's your weight loss secret? I actually don't have one. I don't use shakes, I don't use anything, but one of them is telling the truth about my story. And people don't understand how much healing lies in that. And so I've just been showing up in that way, and the more I do, the more I see that there's people who say, oh my gosh, that's me too. That's me too. And I recognize that we find ourselves in the stories of others. That is the secret, and that's why books will never go away. This is why, you know, our ancestors would, at the end of the day, sit around the fire and tell each other stories, because our stories connect us, but our stories also heal us. And there's a modality in psychology that's actually called narrative therapy, where psychologists use the power of story to help people heal. And it's a powerful modality of, I just heard about it recently from a psychologist friend, that there's something about story that moves us and it changes us. And even right now, like as we find ourselves in this pandemic, which is I mean, it's absolute right now. It's chaos. Like none of us know how to be. I was telling somebody yesterday that I was walking through town. I had to go get some vegetables in town, and I try and walk as much as I can everywhere. And as I'm walking, I look down and I see a text come through, and it's my cousin telling me that another one of my cousins have passed away. And I look up, and this homeless man comes to ask me for money, and I snapped at him, which is out of character for me, because I've learned whenever I come face to face with somebody who's homeless or begging me or asking me for something, I've learned to look them in the eye, acknowledge their humanity, and just gently say no if I don't have anything to give them, and continue on my path. But yesterday I snapped, because I don't think any of us really knows how to be. And I think I'm just grateful that I've built such a strong inner world, which is what my story and that healing has helped me do, that is an exception to the rule. And I've learned that it's human, like the 5 stages of grief. Anger is one of them. We're angry because we don't understand what's happening, and that I don't have to be ashamed of my anger, because all of our emotions matter. And anger is just one of the emotions that shows us, where it is that we need healing, where it is that we may need to look at. And in that moment, even though I felt guilt and I felt shame, I also acknowledged that I'm human too, and I'm not superhuman either. And so I guess that what my story is truly about is that we came here to heal each other, the world, and we do that best when we heal ourselves. Michael Jackson sang "Heal the World." I think what he meant is heal you so that you can heal the world, because right now we do need voices of hope. We do need light. As much as there's so much grief, I actually heard somebody explain it this way, that if you look at a storm from space, there's the storm and it's chaos and everything, but in the eye of the storm is complete peace, complete calm, complete rest. And he said that right now in this pandemic, and even in our lives, we can acknowledge that the storm is there. But if we learn how to build our inner world by using the tools that we have, and I meditate, I journal, I really guard my morning routine. If we learn how to do that, then we can learn how to be in the eye of the storm, even as the storm goes. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.